all you. I feel like I'm at a Prince concert or something here. Good evening. My name is Tim and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speakers Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting, meets every Saturday evening here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. The purpose of our group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town who would like to introduce themselves with their first name at this point? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bernadette. I'm an alcoholic.
Bernadette, welcome. Yes. Mike, welcome. Sir. Colin, welcome. Melvin, welcome. Yes, sir. David, welcome. Sir. Nick, welcome. Back. Maureen, welcome. Terry, yes. Diane, welcome. All in the back. Welcome, Ed. Over here. All the newcomers are on this side. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Rick. I'm an alcoholic.
Rick, welcome. And yes, ma'am. Mike, welcome. Tim, welcome. Excellent. Welcome to everybody. Do I have them all? There's a lot. We've got a full house tonight. All right. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand now. Excellent. If you're looking for a sponsor, those hands are a life vest for you. Are there any announcements tonight for the good of AA? Okay. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or anyone else in the home group after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books, CDs, or to help those who can't afford, there's a jar in the back. If you'd like any CD of a past speaker, please see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are also available to you at no charge. I'd like to now introduce Zach to come up and read the AA preamble.
Hey guys, my name's Zach. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Anthony to come up and please read the 12 steps.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Anthony. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admit we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives would become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and for us to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs.
We have a seventh tradition here. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I'd like to pass the baskets. They'll come from outside in and then back out all the way. We have no dues and no fees, but we do have expenses, as you can see, the coffee, the cream, the donuts, etc., etc. It's all a lot of fun to provide, but it doesn't come free. There is absolutely no smoking on church grounds, please. If you do need to smoke, we ask you to go across the street to the Dairy Queen. Just make sure you stay off the block in which the church is located. And if you see any cigarette butts, please pick them up and toss them in the can. If you would also at this time silence all your cell phones. Either turn them off, put them on mute, take the volume all the way down to 0, because it can be a really a horrible distraction in the middle of a meeting. I'm sure most of you are well aware that AA is an international organization. Tonight it is a real pleasure to introduce a good friend of our Conscious Contact Speakers Group. I'm going to do my best not to butcher this name and where he's from. I hope that he will be understanding. I'd like to introduce for you tonight Mr. Sulun K. He comes from the came to believe a group out of Sulun, Liberia. So if you would please come forward, sir, we'd love to have you with our group.
Good evening. Before I start, I just want to get two things out of the way. One, I did not fly directly from Liberia. I did not fly from Liberia to speak here tonight. I'm actually a Bucks County resident. I live in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, but it is true that I'm from Sulun, Liberia, and my name is Sulun. Majority of my friends that have known me since I came in the rooms know me by the name of Wilbert. And there's a story to that. My father was educated by Lutheran missionaries, and they thought it befitting that they gave, because the native names, like you saw Tim, is hard to pronounce. Mine's one of the easy ones. So they give individuals Western names so that you can blend in. So apparently from as far back before my birth, I've been trying to fit in, so either way I'm called Sulun, Wilbert, Shu. The bottom line here is that I'm an alcoholic, and that is one of the most important pieces of information that I will share about myself tonight. And my realization of the fact that I am an alcoholic and accepting the fact that I am an alcoholic have made all the difference in my life. And I'm hoping that I won't bore you. The bottom line, the story is basically acceptance and surrender. I'm here tonight because I surrendered. And I'm so grateful that the literature is true. In our literature, it tells us that we're going to grow a fellowship among us. And I've got a full group of my friends that I see on a daily basis from around my way that came up here to support me, and I'm grateful for that. Thanks, guys, for coming. I have a sponsor. He's also here, David. I have a home group. By way of I was asked my home group, so I had to pick one. But I have a home group for every day of the week, because I drank every day of the week. I was a slave to alcohol, and that's what I'm going to talk about. This is the 4th of July weekend, and I wish everybody a happy Independence Day. It's a time of the year where there's a lot of partying going on, but by reason of the fact that I have you guys in my life, I'm safe. I know for a fact that I won't drink tonight. And tomorrow, contingent upon my spiritual condition, I have the ability to go through tomorrow without a drink. And that also is a big deal for me, because there was a time in my life where I could not live without a drink. And I have a sobriety date. It's March 10th of 2013. I still consider myself in the very early embryonic stages of my recovery. Reason being, I've learned over the few years I've been in the rooms that it's okay to not know. Because the moment I realize that I know, or I think that I know, I stop allowing myself to be taught. And the whole concept of recovery for me is basically like learning a new language, right? When you start to learn a new language, you pick up words that you use most often, like hello, goodbye, good morning, good night. And then you have to practice. You have to practice using those words. You have to practice becoming comfortable with the language that you're learning. But when you get to the point where you start to think in that new language, then you know that you're fluent. And I'm grateful today that I'm fluent in the English language, but I'm not fluent in the language of recovery. I can never allow myself to get fluent. I can never allow myself to think that I can get fluent, because this program is such that I'm never going to graduate from, by the grace of God. During my discussion, you're going to hear me reference God a lot, because when I came in the rooms, it was told to me that I have to try and find a higher power and to establish a relationship with that higher power. By the grace of God, through the help of a sponsor, through the help of my mentors, through the help of the literature, I found a higher power, and I choose to call my higher power God. I hope that my reference to this God of my understanding is not going to be offensive to anybody. I'm not trying to impose on you, but you guys asked me to share my experience, strength, and hope. And God happens to be my strength. And God provides people in my life that also form part of what I like to call my construction crew. Because what I have today, the foundation of a life that I have today, is only by the grace of God and with the help of these men and women. So, okay, now that is out of the way. In our literature, Living Sober, there's an article that suggests remembering your last drunk. And it stated that the word drunk that was used in that statement is not a typo. It was not a mistake. So I'm going to start off tonight by remembering my last drunk. It was on a beautiful Sunday, the finals of the Copa del Rey, Real Madrid versus Barcelona. I'm a Manchester United fan, and Cristiano Ronaldo was my player. And he went to Real Madrid, and I hate Barcelona. So I wanted Real Madrid to win, and Real Madrid lost. I was pissed off. But the beautiful thing about it is that from the Friday of that weekend, I have been doing what I always do: drink, pass out, wake up, drink, pass out, wake up. I had a friend one time that stayed around me, because I didn't have a place to stay, that stayed around me for an entire weekend. And he looked at me on a Sunday and he was like, "Shoot, you don't drink water?" I'm like, "No." To me, it made no sense that I would put water in my body, because I felt the water was going to occupy the space for my alcohol. That's how badly I was addicted. I hear people talk all the time about I was in love with alcohol. I think that was way back then, but I was a slave to alcohol. I did not have a choice. At least in my understanding, when you're in love with somebody, there are times you argue and you don't want to be bothered with the person you love. But I had no choice with alcohol. If alcohol threw me down a flight of stairs, so long as I didn't break my neck, I get up, I would have to do what alcohol tells me to do. So I was a slave. And that day, I found out, after the game, I found out that my prized possession, which was a 32-inch flat-screen TV, had been sold by my best friend. And I'm going to reference this best friend again in my story. He's also my first cousin. So I got mad, and I decided to go and confront him. But what I did not realize that in the year 2013, cell phones had already been invented. And by the time I left from where we watched the game to get to where he was at, he had already prepared for me. Because when I drink, I'm violent. I'm not the kind of person, I'm not the average Joe, right? So he prepared himself for what was going to be a fight. And he armed himself with a kitchen knife. And when I confronted him, he cheated. Yeah. He stabbed me 5 times, 3 times in my rib cage and twice in my arm. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. There's somewhere in a literature written, they say, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, the tree cannot grow. I had to die to the old self to have a chance at the new life that I've been blessed with. But now, at the time, I did not know. At the time, I was so vengeful. I wanted revenge. I hated the fact that this happened, right? But that was God answering my prayers. I was born and raised in Liberia, West Africa. I'm from a tiny village of maybe at most 15 houses. The only concrete house in my village is the Lutheran church. And when I was 5 years old, my father, apparently he had gotten a scholarship to come to the United States to pursue his education in medicine. And he was living somewhere upstate New York, but he had a New York State ID. When I was 5 years old, a full-blown civil war started in my country. And my father thought it was wise to leave the United States, leave the comfort of peace and stability to go back to Africa to try to get his family out. When my father arrived in the country, we had a dusk to dawn curfew imposed, and all the airports, all the port of entries were shut down, so he could not leave. On the 6th of July, 1990, where we were living fell under attack by the rebels of Charles Taylor. And we had to leave. There were no means of transport, no vehicles, so we had to walk. And I had a brother that was 14 years my senior. So he carried me on his shoulder, and he would walk ahead of the family. And when he gets tired, he would stop and wait for the family to catch up. At one point, we passed a government checkpoint, and he put me down. I remember it was on an almond tree, and we were waiting for the family to come up. And when my family got to the checkpoint, my father was asked for his identification. And the only identification my father had on him was a New York State ID. At the time, it was believed by the government soldiers that the supporters of the war was from the United States. So my father was signaled out of the line, and my father was beheaded by the government soldiers. And I can't really remember my father. I know people that knew my father tells me that I look like him. Poor guy. But a lot of the things I know from my early childhood were things that were told to me by my brother. Now, when my father was caught up in that situation, my mom started to scream and cry and beg for his life, and the soldiers decided to shoot in the air to disperse the crowd. My older brother and I continued. We ran in the direction we were going, and my mom and my siblings ran back to the city where we came from. So at the age of 5 years old, I was separated from my mom and the rest of my siblings. It was just my older brother and I. He became my primary caregiver. And like a good big brother, he took me everywhere he went. I cannot speak on behalf of my older brother, but I think that out of anger for what happened to our father, he chose to join the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, which was headed by Charles Taylor. My older brother became a rebel. And he took me everywhere he went, including the front lines. By the time I was 8 years old, I was a full-blown child soldier. I carried my own rifle. I knew how to use my own rifle. And I knew how to survive. Survival of the fittest. When Ron asked me to speak, he told me that based on what is in our literature, it said what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So at no time am I going to tell you about what I did. It's not that I'm embarrassed by it, because according to my 9-step promises, I will not regret the past, nor would I wish to shut the door on it. But my primary reason for being here tonight is to stay sober and to help another alcoholic to achieve sobriety. What I did as a child soldier has no bearings on the fact that I am an alcoholic. But what I felt, how I thought, enabled me to justify in my actions that in the years that followed. As a child, when we were giving assignments, when we had to go up against United Nations soldiers and stuff like that, we were told that and I'll just say this now, drugs is also a part of my story. We were introduced to drugs and alcohol, and we were told that it would make us brave. I'm not one of those kids that drank because I saw other kids drinking. I'm not one of those kids that followed kids in the neighborhood. If you were in a neighborhood that I live and you saw your younger siblings with me, you knew they already crossed that line. And I took pride in it. I lived in a society where violence and aggression earned you respect. And all my life, I tried to be the best at everything I did. So when it came to violence and aggression, I did it to the best of my ability. And I will tell you with no remorse that I did a very good job at it. During that time, I fell in love with alcohol because alcohol allowed me to get outside of myself. There were two emotions that I dealt with all my life, fear and anger. But God forbid if I let you know that I'm afraid. Because if I let you know I'm afraid, I'm opening a corridor for you to come at me, right? So I always had anger as my cover-up. And that helped me a lot until it could not help me no more. Another thing that we were told as kids was that we should live every day like it was the last day, it was our last day on earth. I was never one of those that planned for the future. And I remember there were times me and my brother would be sitting in remote areas, like in the woods somewhere, and he would make a makeshift table, and he would come out with these plates and silverwares, because when we go in people's homes, we take what was ours. We looted and did committed a whole lot of atrocities. But he would set up a table, and he would tell me to sit and learn how to eat with a fork and a knife. And I would question him, like, why? We in the middle of nowhere, there's a war going on. Why should I take time to learn to eat with a fork and a knife? And he always told me, he said, in America, people eat with fork and knives. And I used to tell him, I said, I'm never going to go to America. Because I never thought it was possible. I never thought. In order to come to America, you had to have someone in America, right? And I didn't even know if my mom and my siblings were alive. But he always had this hope. He always had this hope. He did not have a God. He did not have this fellowship, but he always had the hope that there was one day going to be a better life for me. He made sure, even during the war, that I learned to read. I remember he got a book, right, and he brought a book for me to read. And I used to memorize a lot. And he brought his friends. His friends, they were all seated, and he told me he's proud of his little brother, right? So he called me to read. And he still had the book at the first page, and I read the whole book without him turning a page. And I thought he was going to be proud of me, but he got mad, and I got whipped for that. But those were some of the things that I experienced, right? That does not make me any different than anybody that was born in Long Island or Beverly Hills or whatever. We're all born with the same 5 senses. We're all born with the same chemical components that make a human being. And what I did early on, I relied upon alcohol and drugs to help me get by because I did not know how to live life. I remember quite recently I was at the shore, and I walked past this guy, and he had a T-shirt on that had the inscription, "Growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional." I never took that option. I never wanted to grow up. I never wanted to be responsible. I never wanted to be held accountable for my actions. I always wanted somebody else to take the blame for what I did. Because that was the way it was during the war. If y'all go somewhere and y'all commit the worst things, the commanding officer takes the fall. And all y'all do, y'all just disperse and go look for a new commanding officer. On the 5th of May, 1996, my brother and I, it was on a Sunday. I'm lucky with Sundays, right? On a Sunday, the 5th of May, 1996, my brother and I went on the front lines. And my brother got killed. I didn't know at the time, but I got wounded. I got hit with rocket shrapnels in my back. I still have particles in my neck, but that's... And they refused to tell me that my brother had died. You know, they kept that information away from me. But I knew my brother was dead because he never came in my room. They had the United Nations had these makeshift tents that they set up hospitals. And he never came to see me. So I knew he was dead. And then after I got out of the hospital, I found out that he had died and whatever. So I became a surrogate of the then leader of the front, Charles Stiller. But our war, the 14 years of war, was not just all 14 years of war. There were periods where they would go on peacekeeping, they would go for peace talks and accords and agreements. And we have these periods of ceasefires. During these periods, schools open. And I always went to school because it was going to be boring just staying home. So I managed to get some kind of education gradually. But I remember I had a girlfriend. Now, like I said, I'm not the kind of kid that people want to see their kids hanging out with. So when I had a girlfriend, you know, I was not allowed at her family's house. So this afternoon, I got out of school. She told me, she said, one of my uncles is visiting from the States. Let's stop by my dad's house and we can hustle a couple of US dollars and then and that made sense. Because at the time, one United States dollars was, I think, 35 Liberian dollars. So $100 was $350. You know, so that was a lot of money. So we went to the house, and when we got there, the family was having a conversation, and I stood there, and for some reason, the conversation shifted to families that got separated as a result of the war. Now, growing up with my brother, when he was alive, he always told me in bits and pieces stories about my family. Some nights he would just call me and then he would start to explain. I think it was his way of like reconnecting with the past. But those were vital things that helped me. Because the stories that he shared with me partly got me where I am today. My brother had told me about my mom, told me her name and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this guy and his brother talk about families that got separated as a result of the war. And this guy started to talk about a co-worker he had from Kmart warehouse in Fairless Hills that lost her 2 sons as a result of the war. And when he started to talk, for some reason I just felt that this person he was talking about was my mom. And I interrupted him, and I was like, I'm not dead. The person you're talking about is my mom. And we literally got in an argument. I'm arguing with him that that's my mom, and he's saying the lady said her sons are dead. So finally he gave in, and he asked me for my name. And I called my name. I said, my name's Sulun. And he turned white. He turned pale. I got to practice my choice of words. So anyway, he got up and he walked to his bedroom and he grabbed his cell phone and he called my mom. And luckily for me, blessedly for me, it was her day off and she answered the phone. I remember she told me, after we talked, she started to cry on the phone. After she composed herself for a little bit, she told me, I don't want to see your I don't want to hear your voice again until I see your face. That was in 1999. And she began the paperwork for me to come to the States, and I was fortunate, I was blessed to get my visa a day before my birthday. I got my visa July 14th of 2003. And I came to the States in September 29th. I arrived in the United States, 2003. My mom thought, as a good parent, she was reconnecting with her son. What she did not know, or what she did not realize at the time, was that she was inviting a monster into her home. I brought Wilbert with me, I brought Sulun with me, I brought the child soldier with me. And when I came to my mom's home, my mom was living in a one-bedroom apartment at the time in Levittown Trace Apartments. And I took advantage of that lady. I took what she gave me willingly, and I stole the rest. She could not even have a conversation with me. I screamed, I was so manipulative that I tried to make this woman feel bad about the choices I made. You know, it was everybody else's fault. Growing up, I hated every kid that had a father. If you had a father and your father did something for you, don't tell me about it. Don't tell me about it, because it's going to be a problem. So I had that anger, I had that hate inside of me. I never realized it. But to me, it was just my natural way of behaving. And when my mom brought me to the States, I came in September of 2003. January 1st, 2004, I got my first DUI. I wasn't even old enough to legally drink in the United States. But in my country, there is no limit there is no age restriction as to where you can purchase alcohol. I can send my 9-year-old son to the liquor store. So long as he have the right amount of money, he will bring what I want. Till today. The epidemic is at its worst in my country, and hopefully I will touch on that a little bit. But within 6 months of my arriving in the United States, I had already been to Doylestown twice. Since I got sober, this is my 3rd trip to Doylestown. The first time I came, Cadillac Ed was speaking for Jerry, and then Jerry asked me to speak the following Sunday. It was in the same church. So this is my 3rd time, and coincidentally, my 3rd time in the same building. But the 2 times that I came prior, I came into Doylestown and I left Doylestown. I did not visit the court. I did not have any conversation with the police, none of that, and that's a good feeling. You know, when you're not born in a city or in a town, and you live in that town less than 6 months, and the police officers know you by your nickname, that's a problem, right? I would hand my driver's license to a police officer, and he would look at my government name, Wilbert Cully, and he would come back and refer to me as Shu. There's nowhere on my driver's license my nickname is written. But my reputation preceded me. When I came to the States, it was around the time where this Bloods and Crips situation was really on the rise between Trenton and Bristol. Being a good alcoholic, I could not identify with either the Bloods or the Crips because I was shortchanging myself, right? So I assumed a neutral role, and I allowed both Bloods and Crips to hang out. They used to call me Africa, and my crib was where Bloods and Crips hung out. I thought that was cool. They needed my exposure to violence, my understanding of toys, you know, and I thought I played my part well. But at the same time, my disease was, it was there, it was raging. And prior to me coming into this fellowship and meeting my sponsor, I did not believe that alcoholism was a disease. But my sponsor made me to understand that in order for something to be referred to as a disease, there are three things. One is identifiable, two is progressive, and three is fatal. And there was no way I could deny that alcohol was that way for me. Because I'm the kind of person, if you invite me to your party and I start to drink, I don't even go on the dance floor. I stay right by where you keep the liquor, that's where I'm at. And when that liquor is finished, I expect you to bring a refill. And if you don't bring a refill, there's going to be a problem. And parties were shut down. Clubs were shut down because of our presence. And like I said, I don't take pride in that. But I'm at a point in my recovery where I see how my experience can benefit others. My being a slave, a very obedient slave to alcohol and all its other components, made me a very, very not too nice person. And today, I'm grateful for the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous because I believe that I am a good man today. My sponsor made me to understand that we are not bad people. We are good people that make bad choices. And I made a lot of bad choices. I made a lot of bad decisions in my life. And today I still make decisions, right? But the difference today is that I have so many people to bounce ideas off of before I come to a finalization of a decision, whether it's work-related, whether it's with a desire for the opposite sex, or whether it's where I go during the day. I run it by people and I get feedback. So that helps me. There are three words that I have been exposed to during this time of my recovery: mercy, grace, and favor. The mercy of my higher power saved me from what I deserved as a result of my actions. By reason of my behavior, punishments that I was supposed to have, he spared me of them, or she spared me of them. That was his mercy upon me. The grace that girl in Liberia had the nerve to even befriend me, moreover to take me to her family's house, to meet her uncle. All of these things, when were happening in my life, I never saw the hands of God in it. I believe in luck, but today I know that there are no coincidences. There is no coincidence why I met Ron the day I met him. There is no coincidence why he asked me to speak tonight. In my mind, I keep telling myself probably it's the holiday weekend and everybody else that he asked kind of turned him down. But I'm glad I came because we're all here. In Swahili, we have a principle, a major principle is referred to as Ubuntu. It's that spirit of camaraderie. I am because we are. There can be no Wilbert without AA, without the Davids, without the Johns, the Evan. These guys hold me accountable today. And you know what I thought initially was a burden? What I thought was people trying to impose their will on my life is people reaching out to show me that this life is mine and I can enjoy it. Nobody benefits from my sobriety more than Wilbert. I'll tell you that for sure. The job I have today, it was a sober member of this fellowship that picked me up from Walmart when Walmart let me go and was driving around, and he decided to stop, and he harassed me. Every morning my phone would ring. Did you call those people? Did you call those people? I only called them because I wanted to get him off my case. November 20th, I'll be working at that job 3 years. That's the longest time I've ever worked for any single employer. And what's crazy is that they still want me back. They expect me back Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. All of these things that have happened in my life as a direct result of, one, me asking God for help when I knew there was no other way. I used to walk from Morrisville to Trenton. I had to be in Trenton. During the latter stages of my addiction, I had to be in Trenton because I got to a point where I could not afford an airplane bottle, which I think is $1 in Trenton. I could not afford to purchase alcohol to support my habit. If I was standing at a liquor store and any one of y'all came to that liquor store to buy alcohol for your own satisfaction, it's in your best interest when you walk in that liquor store to get me at least an airplane bottle or something. Because when you come outside of that liquor store and you don't have what I want, it's a problem. I'm one of those guys that made people walk on the other side of the streets on Stuyvesant. The Stuyvesant, the Highland Avenue, Hoffman, Spring Street. We roamed those areas 2, 3 in the mornings looking for victims. My disease caused me to go in an abandoned building and try to saw off copper without knowing that the gas had not been turned off in that building. And what's crazy about it, when I talk about the grace of God, we were smoking cigarettes and joints while we were trying to cut those pipes. I am not here today because I'm any better or I'm any smarter than my friends that got killed, than my friends that died in jail. Some of my friends are deported. I am not in any way smarter than them. And I wasn't a better person than any one of them. I'm here today because of the grace of God. I'm here today because God has a plan for my life. And I had to experience everything that I experienced in order for me to appreciate the life that I have today. You know, having something and losing it, almost losing it, happiness, the gratitude for the miracle of a second chance at a life once abandoned. I'll never forget that. And it's in our literature. All of these different things that are tools today. Now you see, I draw, right? I used to draw as a means of getting outside of myself. But no matter how good an artist I am, I cannot use dental tools to paint a picture. And a dentist cannot use paintbrush and acrylics or pastels to take out someone's tooth. So what you guys have done for me is that you guys have allowed me the opportunity to learn how to use the tools to be the man that I am today. A father to my sons. I remember during one of my last drunks, my one son looked at me and said, "Dad," he was 5 years old. This kid expected he and I to play. He was going to be the Red Ranger and I was going to be one of the villains. He had everything all set up. And I stumbled in the house and I passed out. The next morning, I'm sitting in front of the computer and my son walked up to me. He looked me dead in my eye and he told me, he said, "Dad, you look stupid when you're drunk." Today, I pray that my son never remembers that he told me that. And I pray also that I never forget that my son told me that. Today, when I go pick up my sons from school, I hear them screaming at the top of their 9-year-old voices, "That's my dad." And then I position myself and I walk with a swag, you know, I got it. But the life that I have today, when they talk about life beyond your wildest dreams, I used to hate to hear that. I never had a dream. I never had a dream. But today I have a purpose. I have not only a dream, I have a purpose, I have a vision. During the latter stages of my addiction, I ran with Sex, Money, Murder, which is a gang. Today, I'm working now with the church that I attend, Shiloh Baptist in Trenton, and we're forming a gang. God's anointed, nobody's greater. Because that's what I learned in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I see a man with 30 years of sobriety, 30 plus years of sobriety. He calls my phone. He knows that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. He knows that I don't know anything about recovery. He knows that I don't know anything about staying sober. And since I met my sponsor, not a day my sponsor have asked me, how are you feeling? But every time I have a conversation with him, Wilbert, how are you doing? Are you available for a meeting? All right, I will pick you up such and such time. Rain, sleet, snow. When I got sober, 2 years and 6 months, I was without a driver's license. I never missed a meeting because I did not have a ride. One of the first tools that was given to me when I got exposed to this whole business of recovery was a meeting list with names and phone numbers. I was told to use that meeting list. I was told to call people. I was told to let people get to know me, to know where I was. And I did. And these people, some of them would come from work. They won't have time to even go home and change or find something to eat. And they would stop by to pick me up to make sure I get to a meeting. Never one day have I not gone to a meeting because there was not a ride available. I don't have an excuse as to why I cannot stay sober. Because in our literature, how it works is that rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. There are so many examples I have today that tells me I don't have an excuse. If I go back out there, it's because I want to go back out. I always used to say, oh, I cannot drink. I can never drink again. And my sponsor made me to understand, yes, you can. There is no AA police assigned at any liquor store that is going to stop Wilbert or Sulun from going in a liquor store and purchasing alcohol so long as I have the money to buy it. I'm legally allowed to buy alcohol. So long as I have the right currency, it will be sold to me. But today I cannot afford to take that next drink. Because I know my next drink is not going to be just that one. Now I understand what you guys meant when you guys told me one drink is too many and 1,000 is not enough. Because when I start, I don't know how to stop. But I remember one night it was snowing, and I was walking across the Morrisville-Calhoun Street Bridge, almost 2 o'clock in the morning, staggering, drunk as a skunk. And I asked God. I didn't ask God for help. Because I know from what I've experienced as a child growing up in war, I know that God helps me. I know that He's there for me. I chose not to recognize Him. But what I did, I presented myself with what was like an ultimatum. I made a deal with God in the form of a question or an appeal. I told God, I said, God, I need you to teach me a hard lesson that will cause me to stop. God answered my prayer March 10th of 2013. God used my best friend to stab me. I had so much hate for my cousin because of what he did to me initially. About a couple of Tuesdays ago, I was invited to the state prosecutor's office, Mercer County State Prosecutor's office. And the ball was placed in my court. They gave me the ability to get even with my cousin. But here's the thing. Since March 10th of 2013, when I started coming in these rooms, there are two statements that I say every day. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. I was able to look the prosecutor in the eye when she gave me the ability to put my cousin away for almost 5 years. And I told her no. Because that's what you guys have done to me, right? You guys have given me a conscience. You guys have introduced me to feelings, to emotions that I never knew existed. There's a retreat coming out in September in Malvern, the Matt Talbot retreat. It's for men, right? If you're not doing anything the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, I suggest, if you can, come out to Malvern. Those 3 days will have an impact in your life. It did for me when my sponsor took me out there. I met a guy who was also a priest. And while he was teaching us, he told me something that I will never forget. He said, if you don't learn to transform your emotions, you will transmit them. So the question I ask myself on a daily basis, whatever emotions I'm feeling, if it's sadness, if it's anxiety, if it's apprehension. I was sitting here before the meeting started. I was very nervous. And I jokingly told my sponsor that I was nervous. He said, it's okay, you're human. But I know what to do today when I feel nervous or I feel anxious. And I sat there and I uttered a prayer. And I asked God to use me in accordance with his plan and purpose. I don't have a script. I'm not going in chronological order of how my life went. I don't have no war stories to tell. But I'm telling you today that I was a hopeless drunk that was doomed for death. And I had an encounter. And I surrendered. I surrendered and I was told, surrender and accept. Surrender and accept. When I came in these rooms, you guys told me about the steps. Said it was going to change my life. It was easy for me to tell another man, oh, I admit I'm an alcoholic. Doylestown knew I was an alcoholic, even though I was living in Morrisville. You know? The cops knew I was an alcoholic. I used to be a walking magnet. I would be walking on the streets of Trenton, and a police car would pass by me. And I know instantly what's going to happen. I would walk to the wall, the nearest wall, and I would put my hands against the wall and spread my legs and wait. Because I kid you not, they're busting a U-turn and they're coming back to me. But today, I can joke with cops. I have a routine. Every morning on my way to work, I stop at the 7-Eleven to get coffee. So I'm at the 7-Eleven and they're talking, the radio is playing and they're talking about a drunk driving situation, and somebody made a statement, oh, drunk driving. And I turned, I looked at the officer and I smiled. I said, oh, I drink and drive all the time. His jaw dropped. Like, I said, yeah, I drink water when I'm driving, I drink coffee. But today I can joke with him, and he know that it was just a joke, because not only was I on my way to work, I was in my uniform for work. So we were able to laugh and joke about that. I was not nervous about the fact that a police officer was in it. I did not smell like weed. I did not have the fragrance of alcohol. I have a life today. Today I'm a human being. I cry, I laugh. When I got sober in my first year of sobriety, my now ex-wife and I bought a home. I was so excited. I started making plans about what we're going to do with the home. I went to Walmart and I bought a gym set because I was going to start weightlifting in the backyard and this and that. As soon as I put the bench together and put the weights on, we had an argument and she kicked me out. My fault. Today I can own up to my mistakes. I was not a man. I was not a partner to this lady. And for the years that I dragged this lady through the mud, she needed an alternative, because that was not what her life was supposed to be. She tried to help me, and I was beyond reproof. I wouldn't listen to nobody. I believe that's why God used the method he used to get me in the fellowship. Today we're best of friends. Today she took my boys. They were her. They're movie night. I'm mad because they got 4 movies they want to see, but she gave me the 2 corniest movies to take them to, and she took the better ones. You know, I got to take them to Secret Lives of Pet and Ghostbusters. But today I can do that. I can do that. My family trusts me enough with my kids to know that I will be able to take them to a movie, and I will not sneak out of the theater to go get a buzz while they're in there alone. We all are at different points in our lives. We all see our sobriety different. The one thing that's common about with all of us is the fact that we all suffer from the disease of alcoholism. And like the fingerprints, no two is going to be the same. I can share my experience with you and you can relate, but there is no way possible you can be me or I can be you. What the 12 steps have allowed me to do is to appreciate who I am. I was told, in order for you to fulfill the revelation, you have to accept your identity. Today I accept that I'm a 6-foot dreadlock of African descent, maybe not too nice looking, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is that I can help one person. If I can help one person in my lifetime to see life the way I see life today, like how my sponsor helped me, I'm good. I'm good. That's all I ask for. And you guys said we should share experience, strength, and hope. I like the fact that AA has acronyms and AA have short slogans and all of that. Those things they're useful. The acronym I adopted for hope, help other people every day. Because that's what you guys do for me. Every day you guys help me. Every day you guys, with love, help me realize who I am. You see, like a vessel, if you ever been to the port, right, and you see these tankers or these cargo ships coming into port, they're very huge. With all the power, the engines, some of the engines is the size of this room. But with all that power in that vessel cannot dock himself at a pier. But when you see the little tugboats that have to gently nudge that vessel, consistency, hidden. I heard recently that a water does not pierce a rock or splits a rock because the water is strong. It does that because the water is persistent. The gentle nudging that AA and my sponsor and everybody have given me, that is gently hitting me, could cause me to dock at this peaceful shore, to have the serenity that I have, to have the life that I have, to have the ability to be counted amongst the living, to be free and accepted by all friends and fellows, is a big deal. One of the most important statements my sponsor told me very early on, he assured me that if I gave sobriety a shot, I would have the opportunity to take advantage of opportunities. Everything in my life today is purely because I'm available to take advantage of opportunities. And the only reason why it was available to me was because I wasn't drunk. He tells me this all the time. If I don't drink, there is no way possible I can get drunk. You know, and feelings are not facts. I can feel any type of way today. He tells me that all the time. He says, it's not how I feel or what I think. It's what I do. It's what I do. You see, I learned recently, it is not enough just to know. It is more important to do. For it is only by doing can love show itself as the main principle. You guys taught me how to love before I even knew how to love myself. You guys have shown me the true meaning of love. When they talk about we are normally a group of people that would not mix. If I show you the people I hang out with today, this afternoon, the people I was hanging out with, compared to the people I was hanging out with 3 years ago, it's like night and day. And it has nothing to do with race or ethnicity or social status. Today I get to interact with sound-minded, sober individuals. If you are struggling with this disease, or if you're at a borderline where you don't know or you're not sure whether this fellowship works, I'm here to tell you as a living testament, AA works, but only if you work it. One of my favorite writers is this guy, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and he wrote a piece called "The Psalm of Life." Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what the same. But the verse in that Psalm of Life that I love, and that I remind myself of every day, because there are people in my life today that allows that to be true. He said, lives of great men, Ron, Pat, John, David, Evan, Andrew, Ed, Jerry. I could go on naming Gene, Tim. Lives of great men all remind us that we can make our lives sublime. And departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. My question to you tonight, as we leave from here, are you leaving footprints on the sands of time? How will you be remembered by your peers, by your family? Will you be remembered as somebody that gave up? Or will you be remembered as somebody that persevered, that was persistent, and allowed the tugboats to gently nudge you into that dock and to fulfill your true potentials? I have the opportunity to learn a little more about this whole recovery process on a daily basis from going to meetings. And I'm grateful that I was asked to be here, and that's all I have. Thank you.
It's customary to form a line afterwards and thank our speakers. You know, they take time out of their day, and a lot of them travel pretty far to be with us, and to let them know that they're appreciated. Next week we have Mike C. coming in from York, PA. We do this every week. It's a party. We have a sister group, which is a big book study Thursdays at Salem, UCC, 7:30 p.m., 186 East Court Street. And we are not allowed to smoke anywhere on this property. I don't smoke, so I don't care. No, but anyway, the seats got to be, I think it's 5 across, 8 deep. The rest got to be racked up. We got plenty of food to help us finish that. We usually go over to Perkins afterwards. Anybody needs anything, please see us afterwards. Thanks for coming out, and have a good night. We've got a nice way of closing if you care to join me.